Let's do this. All right, we should be back. All right, cool. I see us on the stream. That's always a good sign. All right, well, welcome back, folks. My name's Nick Taylor. I'm a lead software engineer at Forum, the software that powers Dev 2. And for the third time, I'm back with my man, Matt Foley. We've been building out some GitHub action which we'll recap that in a second. But yeah, hey, thanks again for joining me, Matt. And hey, I see Andrew in the chat there. How's it going, man? Cool, cool. Yeah. I just like to, every time we do the stream, I think it's just good to kind of recap what we're working on because some people are new to the stream. And also maybe we could kind of recap how far we got last time. Does that sound good to you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sounds great.
Cool, cool.
All right. So the point behind what we're doing here is to try to make a GitHub action that Nick or really anybody that could find it for reuse could use to make it so that when a first-time contributor gets a pull request merged on the repo that this action is running on, and they have a Twitter handle defined in their GitHub profile, that you could send sort of like a celebratory tweet from like a service account or whatever account was associated with that GitHub owner org or whatever, just saying like, hey,
Yeah.
congrats on your first merge, thanks for contributing, or whatever the appropriate message would be.
Cool.
So that's the use case, which I think is really cool in terms of being able to do it. And I know, Nick, you had said like this is something that you do often and you enjoy doing it, like from a social perspective, but sometimes it might take up a lot of time.
Yeah, no, yeah, for sure. Like you said, it's definitely fun to do. I mean, sometimes I have to hunt down the Twitter handle just because it might not be in their GitHub, but I think it's just something. I think there's a really good use case to use in GitHub action because this isn't this is something I do only when I notice like a handle that's from somebody that contributed that I'm not familiar with. So it's very possible that I've missed people, and I'm sure I have. So like automating this with, I think even when people know some things are automated, it's still a nice gesture, you know? So, you know, and I think the way we're building this out, we've got like kind of like a stock template that just says like, hey, thanks, or something. You know, I don't think we've completely decided on that, but we'll also have, I don't know if we're doing it in this version or not, but definitely we could have, you know, like customize the template, which I think people would definitely want to do because, you know, everybody's different. So
yeah, so I think to like bring up to speed in terms of how far we got last time, we managed to stand up the action.yaml file, which sort of defines what all the things that this action will do. And that's in your repo epic-actions. And then we also stood up a workflow file, which is in your repo, and I think it's called, see if I can find it, gh-actions-tester. And that is sort of the boilerplate for like if someone else wanted to use this action, that sort of will serve as like our testing ground, but also when we do document it fully, like the workflow file that we'll give as an example will probably be loosely based on that one.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, we've got Andrew in the chat. He's saying he's a little behind on learning GitHub Actions. So I just mentioned he should probably do the GitHub Actions hackathon. So I'm just gonna drop that link. Where did that go? Yeah, okay. Here's the link, Andrew, or anybody else that's joining us in the chat. So yeah, and that's not what this stream's for, to promote that, but it just makes sense to mention it. So GitHub's partnered with Dev2 to have a GitHub Actions hackathon. I believe you can read it in the article I posted there, but I believe submissions are up until December 8th. Don't quote me on that. Just double check in the article, please. But I think it's a fun way to kind of build out something. We talked about this last time, and I talked about it when I was on the Twitter space last week talking about the hackathon. But I think one of the cool things about these is you can compose them. So like, you know, just like a lot of things in programming, you can build it off of existing stuff and kind of mash up things however you want to. So that's pretty cool. I guess now I'm hooked up to your live share. So why don't we look at some code and let's get back to it.
Yeah, right on. So in terms of what I started to do here, I just wanted to lay out the steps that sort of the first portion of this action is going to take. And, you mentioned a minute ago, like a template message thing, and I think you might be able to see like line 9 and down a little bit.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
this is where we set up a template message to tweet, and our workflow file that tells this action what to do can use this input to define like what that message should look like. But we also gave it a default value, and that's the one that we'll kind of tweak to be like more suitable with almost no input or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. All right. I got my screen up here now. Took a second. That's my bad.
Right.
I'm like listening to you and I'm like, when's Matt gonna be putting up his screen? And then I'm like, oh no, that's
So then
okay, cool.
the other inputs that we haven't done yet is the ones that we will basically pass through to an action that we'll reuse to send the tweet. So we talked a little bit about last time, but there's just tons and tons of actions in the GitHub marketplace, and I've seen
Yeah.
at least like 2 or 3 that just send a tweet. That's all they do. So you give it a group of secrets that are defined in your repo, and then you can leverage those in this GitHub action. And what we're going to do is sort of define those as inputs, but we're just going to pass those through to the step that's going to use that or reuse that part.
Cool.
And then like the thing that we were kind of doing at the end of the day here, you can see on line 26, we're just following the steps of like what it would take to do the first part of this. So the first step is to gather the GitHub handle. So that's what we're putting in the environment variable here, uppercase login. And then we're trying to gather the Twitter handle from that GitHub profile. And what we're doing here is taking the GitHub REST API, and we're just saying like, hey, let's pull up the profile for this particular user, whoever it was that sent the pull request. And then we'll use this JQ utility and bash to pull the Twitter username out and then shave the quotes off of it.
Yeah.
And we store that in the handle environment variable, and then we're going to use that in the next 1 or 2 steps.
Cool.
So the next one that we wanted to kind of pick up on was whether or not this was the first PR for this user. So we talked about it last time in our sort of approach markdown file, and there is a GitHub action that's already defined called actions/first interaction. It's the one listed here. And you can look it up. You can certainly use it. We kind of determined that it's probably pretty iterative. Like you might be using this on a really, really big repo. And so what we're hoping to do instead is use the GitHub search API, which I think will let you identify basically any time that somebody did a specific user did a PR on a specific repo. And we'll just look at what the total count of that result is. So I'm going to grab it out of my little cheat codes here. This makes things go faster, believe me.
Yeah, that's all good. And this makes complete sense to me because just from a performance standpoint, even though this is like a background job to some degree, you know, it's gonna it's gonna get slower and slower as time goes by, like linearly, because like it really depends on how many pull requests we have in there. So like if you're literally going through all of them to check the state, that's like that's okay when you're like working with a small data set maybe, but like you said, we're
Yeah.
gonna we're gonna leverage, and I mean we already have access to the GitHub API anyways because we get the token for free with the GitHub actions. Okay, so cool. So okay, so we're searching for first
Yeah.
and
So I just did a few more lines here. So we had gotten as far as the handle, and we had we had one echo below. Now we're going to kind of move on to the next couple of variables. So the first one that we're going to grab is the repo. And so this we're pulling similarly that we pulled out of the pull request user login. We're going to pull out the repository full name. And so that full name should be the org/owner, whoever it is that owns the repo, slash the repo name. So the repo that we're working in now is Nikki T Online /epic-actions. But the one that this will actually run against, I think, is Nikki T Online /gh
Actions tester.
So that's what we should see come back when we echo the repo.
Okay.
And then the next line here, we're looking at this first one, and it looks really, really similar as when we pulled the Twitter username out. Except what we're doing is we are using the search API, and we're encoding a few little pieces of information here. We're putting the GitHub's user login in, and we're also putting in the repo. And so when you write this out, I guess I can kind of show like what this looks like when you write it out, not URL encoded.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, and this makes so much more sense to me because you're finding the data set and then you're doing the action versus literally go through the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, side note, is that first interactions GitHub action, is it specific to pull requests or is it for other things as well?
If I remember correctly, it can also be used for issues.
I wonder
So
if it'd be kind of
figure that
interesting
out.
to it'd be interesting to propose them to use the GitHub API to do either search for a pull request.
Yeah, I've been thinking about trying to suggest it, but honestly, I kind of want to see how this runs.
Oh yeah,
You know what I
no,
mean?
for sure. We'll
Yeah.
do it for sure. I'm just thinking of for them if they want to kind of get a little bit of a performance boost.
Yeah, let me see if I can, if you want, maybe I can find the piece of code in here that, or if you want to just pull it up in the browser for that repo. I think it looks like it's specifically for filtering pull requests and issues.
Okay.
So I can drop it at least in the Discord. You might need to like kick it back over to the Twitch, but whatever.
Yeah, no worries. Oh yeah, I see. Okay, cool. I'll just drop it in the Twitch chat here. Yeah, I mean we definitely don't need to do this now, but I think if somebody yourself or even somebody else, if they wanted to suggest a little performance boost, that could definitely be the way to go. And
I'd really be curious if it was a good way to go. So if you, I was saying like last week, to a degree, you're kind of leaning on whether or not GitHub search has indexed what it needed to in order for this result to be available. But hey, I mean, we'll see if the merge or the pull request kind of pops up the way that we expect it. There on line 21, I laid out like what that URL stuff would look like. So it'd be like github.com/search, and then that query parameter is going to be q equals, and then this string of repo colon, and then that repo full name that we talked about, and then author colon login, and then is colon pull request. So I'm like really hoping that it turns out correctly.
Yeah, well, we
then go ahead.
I'm trying to think. I guess we can't really test it right now from the command line because you have to be in the action to get the GitHub token.
You kind of need that. You need both the GitHub.event pull request thing to be present, but then you also need that GitHub token. Like I think with the, I want to say you might be able to use like personal access tokens and like store it as a variable in your environment and run whatever bash things that you have here. But the thing that I'm not sure about is like you would have to actually set the login for this one, and you would have to set the repo, which wouldn't be that hard. But you could see like what came back from that handle in that first variable. So anyway.
Yeah. I mean, it looks pretty clean.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll see kind of what comes back on that. And then the other thing that would be good is if we want to try and like, well, I'd say let's just push this like it is. So we'll see.
And just while you're pushing that code, so just to explain how we're testing this, and I still don't know what the like.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I still don't know the recommended best approach to testing GitHub Actions, but what we're doing, like Matt was mentioning, is I have this test repository I created. It's private. Not that I have anything to hide. It's just really, I just don't need to show it in my profile, really, honestly. And so we're pushing that action. We're updating it there. Matt has access to the code here. And then once that's there, we're going to rerun the action. So we opened up a fake pull request. Well, not fake pull request, a real pull request, but with really nothing going on in it, really. I mean, I changed the file just to, So Just let me know once that code's up, and
Yeah.
then
It should be.
cool.
Yeah.
All right. So I know you can't see this unless you're watching the Twitch too, Matt, but what am I saying? You can see it now. Yeah. So this is where we have the actions where you can see like what happened if you go take a peek at one of them, if you click on it, and we can rerun it. And when we rerun this, we're going to have the latest action code. So we should see, hopefully, the changes that Matt just popped in there. We should be able to see it outputting the repo and probably the pull request for the user. So
Yeah. We're hoping to see it. Yeah. Yeah. So we'll see what it does.
yeah, so it's just running here. It takes, I don't know how long they usually take. This, I didn't see
Yeah.
how long the last test run was.
I see it on my side, so just let me know. I had to kind of refresh one or two things.
Okay. Yeah, I think, okay, yeah. Must be just a delay.
Kind
Okay,
of odd
so
because it completes on the left-hand side before the individual steps complete on the right. Weird, but
yeah.
whatever. But yeah, I don't know if you can see sort of what those output.
Yeah, so I see we got the repository. So the actually, sorry, we've got the, it's telling us which action ran. We've got the login,
Mhm.
which is my login, Nikki T Online. It
Yep.
outputted the GitHub Actions tester repo, which is where the pull request is, which is what we wanted.
Hmm.
And what was the true value for
Yeah.
again?
So to step back to live share for a second, the second thing that we echoed there or here on line 32 was the environment variable for first. We
Okay.
define that up on line 30, and what we're looking for there is we call GitHub search. We're looking for this particular author's pull requests into this particular repo, and we want basically anything that fits that search query. And what we're ultimately interested in is the total count being less than or equal to 1. And honestly, I'm not sure why I put it as less than or equal to 1. It probably could be just exactly equal to 1.
Yeah,
But
I think
the thing that you would run into with first interaction, and you would run into it here, is that, let's say for example that the user had two PRs open at the same time, where
yeah.
on Monday he opens a PR on your repo, and then on Wednesday he opens another one. But
Hmm.
the one that he opened on Monday, you don't merge until Friday, right?
Yeah,
Well, what would happen is the PR that he had open on Wednesday would make this not pick the Monday one up as
yeah,
being
yeah,
like does that make sense?
yeah.
So
It-
there's kind of a trade-off there that the the first actions first interaction, that particular action, it literally is the oldest interaction. It's not how
yeah.
many you have open right now or how many you have ever done. It's just whether or not the current one is the first one that you ever opened. But if something got closed, you know,
Yeah, that's the thing. I think it's good you brought it up because the first one that gets merged isn't necessarily the first PR open, right? Like you said or alluded to. So
it's not the
I think
oldest.
what,
Yep.
yeah, so what we need to see is, yeah, what is the criteria then? So we want to make sure we actually want to see, is it their first contribution and not so much the pull request. So we want to see, so like here, like I'll show you what I mean. So
Yeah.
of course I'm doing it again. I'm pressing on, on the Discord instead of my browser.
Mhm.
Yeah, so if we come to like, I'll just go to forum because that's what I'm in every day. So if we load this, oh, that's my PR that got merged. That's not what I was looking for. So if we come to the code here and we go to, where is it? Insights. So I don't know what this query looks like, but so you have
Mhm.
here, this is like everybody that's contributed. So like in here, this is what I would typically do. This is how I would do this manually. So
Mhm.
say like you contributed your first pull request to the repo, I would click
Mhm.
on here and I would load my own up. And oops, that's
Mhm.
not what I wanted to do. Sorry. I'd want to click on the commits I have here. So like if I click
Yeah.
on 284 commits, so this will be all the pull requests I had merged basically.
Yep.
And I would mind you, now that I'm saying this too, it depends on how the repository works too, because
Mhm.
we squash our merge. We don't we squash everything, so it's like it doesn't matter if you had 200 commits. At the end of the day, it's going to be one commit. So this actually might not be the best route, but what I wanted to get to was like, so if I stretch open my address bar here, which of course I can't because it's a live stream and something's just not letting me, but the URL, it says show the forum commits and who the author
Mhm.
is. So like what I would typically do is like, so you're like MT Foley, I think, right?
And I don't think I've
So anyways,
contributed to that one.
yeah. So no commits found for you, but like say this was your first one, I would
Yeah.
see it and then I go, okay, this person does have one, and then that's
Do you
how
want
I
to
was doing it manually.
do you want to paste the URL in the chat? I'm just kind of curious what it
Yeah,
actually kicks back.
yeah, exactly. I'll pop it in the Discord here. So yeah, there you go. So I think
Hmm.
the end result is the easy part. It's like, what
Yeah.
is the proper query, you know? Now that
Right.
we're looking at this a little more, because really what we want is if we say it in just you know not non-computer lingo. We literally want the first merge pull request of a contributor. If they
Right.
if and it did it like sorry when we want to check when it gets merged. So if its status is merged, is it their first merged pull request? That's what we want to check.
Yeah.
Because I know
Yeah.
right now we're not checking the status because we've really just been kind of debugging to just see if we get all the pieces,
Yep.
but I think that's the end game. So we want to
Yeah.
also check the status like you were, I forget which file it's in. Is it, yeah.
I think
So if we go back to
yeah.
yeah.
Let me pull it back up. So we were talking about where we're going to actually catch it as far as to define like what's going to happen is going to be we need to check here. Like I think it would probably be in this step. Like I think it's maybe using it's either in the same area that we're saying using is composite and
Yeah.
defining the steps, or it's actually within the step itself. But we would be saying
Yeah.
like, okay, if the status of this PR is merged, or if the status dot
Yeah.
merged is true. I think I need to look up like where it actually refers
Yeah.
to it, but that's going to force it to only be cases where the status of that PR is merged. And then what happens
Yeah.
is when you look in the when you look in the workflow file that's in your GH actions tester file, you're
Yeah.
calling for it to be you're calling for this action to run when a PR gets closed, which would be the merge.
Yeah.
That's where you catch
Yeah.
that merge. So
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. No,
I
that
think
makes
in general,
sense.
like it's gonna probably fit the use case. The only thing that might like defeat it is if somebody opened a PR like on Wednesday that you didn't merge until later, if they had a
Yeah.
second one open at the same time, it might actually kind of make this not right.
Uh,
What you would prefer to have is that this is the first one that got merged.
so yeah, exactly. I think
The
what we could
trouble that
do is, sorry, go ahead.
Mhm. I was going to say the trouble that I've seen is that when you look at pull requests in this search query, you can't necessarily tell if they were merged or not. Because if you could, then that would be probably the way that you would be able to say it. Like if you looked at this one and then every other one that was in that list, even at however long it was, if none of them were merged, then it doesn't matter. But
Yeah.
anyway, yeah, I
Yeah.
think we might be able to tweak it a little bit, but I think if we just keep kind of going with it, it's probably going to be pretty close to what we need.
Yeah, I think I know what we can do. So you know how I was
Okay.
just showing you before, like if you look back in my browser there, so like we're searching for commits by MT Foley. There's nothing because like you said, you haven't contributed to forum. So I think what could be interesting is, so if we look at the workflow, the tweet YAML file in the tester, we
Hmm.
wanna we wanna do like you said, we really only want to target this to close pull requests.
Hmm.
So, and then when the close pull request, when the action fires for that close pull request, I think at that point we want to check, you know, is this their first contribution? So like if we come back to that commits thing,
Yeah.
because like I said, like in our case, like I was thinking of this too narrowly, but in the case of forum, like I said, we squash the pull request, but other people merge all the commits, so it really does vary. So I think if we can check when it, like I have to see the order of how it happens, but like when it gets merged, is there any commits yet, or is it like we're in the
Mhm.
middle of it being merged, so like there's no commits yet, and then we can
I
kind of
think
base it off of that? I'm not sure.
I think is at the end of the pull request being merged. I think is what triggers this. Like I think by the time you actually get to this spot, it's already been
Yeah.
merged. So
Okay.
like if
Okay.
there was any squashing, it would have already occurred. So I'm
Yeah.
looking to see if I
Gotcha.
can find the payload that. And here I'll send you a link to this.
I accidentally tweeted us out twice. I thought I was tweeting at something different. What my stream deck is tweeting. Okay. Yeah. So you sent that in the chat. Okay. So let's open that up. Okay. All right. So I got the docs open here for the pull request.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. All right. So action. So we definitely want the closed action. Oh, is
hmm
closed and the merge key is true. So that's what we want.
Yep. So if you scroll down a little bit in that link, there's a example payload, or yeah, a web, and they list it as a webhook payload example, but I think it's the same for the GitHub Actions, what the payload would have in it. And so, yeah,
Oh, oops, it's not.
in terms of event, it's the pull request being closed. But if you scroll down in
Okay.
that example payload, you can see there's a key called merged.
Okay. Yeah. 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 So we definitely. So I don't think we have a choice on the
Mm.
action in terms of it. We always have to check the closed one, which is not the end of the world, because maybe
Yep.
there's different actions in the future we do, but like,
Mhm.
oh, so sorry, your your code wasn't merged. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just joking there. I wouldn't do that, but yeah. So yeah. So so
Cool.
merged. Okay. So there is the merged, like you said.
Yeah.
There's also
Yeah.
merged at. So maybe the timestamp could help us in terms of checking the commits or something.
Yeah, the trouble with the search thing is that I think basically at this point in time of when the PR gets closed because it was
Mhm.
merged, I think that's the only actual moment in time that you can verify, at least through these payloads, whether it was merged or not. When I look through
Yeah.
that search thing that we're using, and I think the same goes for the first interaction action, the results in that I don't think actually show you whether or not it was merged. It does show you whether it was
Okay.
closed, but it doesn't necessarily
Yeah.
show you whether it merged. So anyway, I guess the thing that you said though, the merged at thing, I mean there might be something to that. If Let me see if that shows up at all if I post one of these in the search, and I can, once I get the search actually configured or whatever, I can
Yeah.
tell you so that you can see what it looks like.
Yeah.
I don't remember how a slash gets encoded in.
It's It's not it's not %20, that's space slashes. Usually what I do is I just open up the browser dev tools and I do encode URI component and then I just paste in the text.
You know
It's
what? This actually like does seem to give me what I want. So I'm gonna paste this in here. This
okay.
might get kicked out to a different time.
All right, I'm gonna bring us back to VS
Yeah.
Code screen. The
And I
the other
thought we
thing
were
they
gonna.
had in
All
that
right.
what was I gonna
Let
say?
me
The
know
other
when
thing I
you.
noticed in there is there is the merge. Like if I'm looking at the example payload for the pull request, there's
Yep.
also a SHA in there. So like we can get the commit hash
Hmm.
and we could check that and maybe you want to get the maybe compare it to like the first hash of the first commit they did or something. I don't, you know what I mean? Because if it's not the first one, then that means it's not their first pull request, maybe. I don't know.
Right, no
This is
doubt.
interesting though. It's not a can of worms. It's just it's kind of interesting. It's a little more involved than
Hmm.
I initially thought, basically.
It's a more specific use case, and this is something that I haven't dove into it, but I did know that it was maybe an edge. So let me know if you got that pulled up that I had pasted in. It started with api.github.com.
Oh yeah, sorry, that's my bad. All right, here we go. All right, should be open in the browser now. Just gonna zoom that in a
Yeah.
bit for people at home.
And then if it does open up, let me know. I mean, hopefully you'll be able to see those results.
Yeah, so I can see the total count, open sauce,
20
the
query.
URL. Yeah, yeah,
I
I got
think
it all.
20, I can't remember if that's like what the default limit is on the query or what, but I guess the point is
Okay.
if you search for merged at, which I think was your suggestion, if you search for
Yeah,
that key, most of them will have a date on them. But
yeah.
you can search for merged at, in quotes and then
Uh,
colon and then the word null, and you'll find at least one.
yeah, because now that you say that, we don't we don't need to get too fancy actually. We just really need to see is
Mhm.
the merged at count one.
Well, we need to, yeah, exactly. You're exactly right. How many was it? Because if we only count one of those, or if we
Yeah,
can only find one of those, then we're good.
we're
But
yeah, we're pretty
if we
much
find
guaranteed.
more, yeah, exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So
Yeah, I
that'll
think
be
that makes
interesting.
sense. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But
All
this
right.
is really great though that we have some example payloads though, because it's just a little easier to grok because you can see all the stuff in here. But yeah, I
So let's
think
see
that makes
here.
sense. Yeah.
So this is going to be inside a pull request sub thing, and then it needs to have a merged at where it's not equal to null. So
Yeah.
I'm going to be doing some like on the fly searching here.
Yeah, no, it's all good. And the other thing I would mention is the payload once it gets merged, I have it on the screen right now, but the pull request key and the JSON payload, it's got a URL, and that would be nice to like people don't have to use it in their template, but it would be nice to make that available to the template because typically what I've done when I did tweet it out is I would say, "Oh, thanks so much for your contribution," something along those lines, and then I would paste in the pull
Yeah.
request that got merged. So since we already have that info there, I think that would just it's just kind of nice. And I don't know if you've seen the new GitHub social cards. So like on Twitter, they look really good
Mhm.
too. So
Okay. So we could do like, and I'm just typing it in the action.yaml. We could do PR URL, or we can just put URL in general and
yeah,
then replace that with whatever kind of URL that we want to use.
yeah, exactly. And they don't have to use it, but we like in the default
Mhm.
template, I would include it so
Mhm.
that they can see an example. And
Well, the adjustability that you can make with the action is that you could give them multiple tokens that they could reuse, or multiple different kind of tokens that they could reuse into that tweet. Like
okay,
maybe
yeah,
pull request URL, the one that got merged, maybe that's one of the URLs that you can include, but you could also include maybe a link to their user profile, or you could also include maybe a link to the repo in general that this was kind of working against, or whatever. Does that make sense?
yeah,
Like you're
yeah.
already making one for the user or whatever the handle is, so you can make as many more as you want, and then whatever template message that we define, like you said, like we put the bee's knees in it, whatever we can.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Give them the whole buffet in the message, and then
Hmm.
like if they just want to
Yeah,
take if they just want to take the fried rice, or I don't know, I don't know. I haven't
yeah.
been to a buffet in years.
I can't say that for myself. Definitely been to a buffet in the last little while, but it wasn't like a
Oh,
Golden Corral. I don't know if they're even still open. Anyway, all right, so if I'm looking in here, that api.github.com thing that we were looking over, where it was like the full list of results,
yeah.
I was
Okay.
getting ready to see if I could figure out like how do I use that JQ utility to filter out or to basically count how many of these things I can find that were merged, right?
Yeah, you could do. I'm just looking at the. Okay. Yeah. So
Yeah.
what you could do. Well, it depends. If you go for if the search query is really saying like is it possible to make the search query this refined to say like find me closed pull request with the merged at, or do you have to actually get the payload first and then filter?
I don't know. Let me see if I can figure that out. So search
Because
list.
basically, if that search works where we can like laser focus right away, there's a total count, which is the first property, at least what I see in the payload sample that you gave me. So if the total count was one there based on that query, then we're golden. Otherwise, we get a count back, and then even if it's only limited to 25, as soon as we have more than one, we know that it's not the first one. So even
Exactly.
with that
So
search limitation, it's not a big deal.
I pasted a link in that was kind of what I was using to come up with the approach of trying to limit it to a user in a repo.
Okay. Yeah.
And so just
Yeah,
let
I
me
got
know when
that
you
up
have
here.
it pulled up.
Yeah, I got it up here. The searching issues
Okay.
and pull requests.
Exactly. So that's the one that that we're trying to leverage in terms of this particular search
Okay.
way of doing things. But you see a little bit lower, it says search by open or closed state. So I do see that they have open and closed, but I don't see anything about is merged or
Yeah.
merged true or anything like that. But
Interesting.
there might be something a little lower.
Yeah. There's visibility. That's not that important because we don't care about if it's a public or private, because if it's private, I mean, there's still, well, actually, that's a side note, but
Oh,
maybe,
this
well,
is
the thing,
interesting. I think it is on this page. So let me adjust
okay,
it. If you control F and you do the word merged.
merged. Oh, yeah,
Apparently
yeah, I've
there's
got
a way to
two
say.
hits. Search when I
Apparently
pull.
there's. Oh, and I
Okay, yeah.
got. Oh, you're on it. So we just need to make an adjustment to that URL because you can do is:/merged. And when I run
Okay,
that against the api.github.com thing where we had 25 results, now I have
yeah,
24.
okay,
So
cool.
hey, dude, you're on it. So
All
let's
right,
let's
so,
just make the adjustment and then we'll
okay,
get
cool.
it going.
We're like tweaking things like no tomorrow. I don't know. I'm trying to say cool stuff and it's not coming out cool.
Oh
That's
man.
all good. Okay, no,
Now
but
this
this
is
is
like
great though.
yeah. This is legit in terms of especially compare if it is accurate, then
Yeah,
it is definitely a suitable alternate, I think, to the first interaction thing.
big time.
So
Okay, so
I think I'm gonna push this as it is, or actually we can push it on the next go round. We got about 10 minutes until you need to run, right?
I do a time check. I got like just under 15 minutes, and then,
Okay.
but this is good. It's kind of like speed round. We got some good brain juices flowing, and we got this. We got a good
Yeah.
clear path of what we're doing now.
So I'm gonna see
Cool.
if I can find my little cheat sheet again because I think that'll step to the next point.
This is all just like also because I honestly haven't used the GitHub search API,
Yeah.
so this is just like I just find this fascinating, like how pretty granular it can get. So
Yeah, when I was researching this thing a couple of weeks ago, that was when I really dug into it for the first time. But I hadn't found that thing that we just found about, is first merge. So I think I'm going to paste this here in a minute. And this is going to be a pretty
sweet.
good size block, but we'll see how it looks.
Yeah. While you're doing that, I'm just curling on my page on the Twitch stream. I made a little sound bite that's me just saying sweep, and it just makes me
Sweet.
giggle every time I hear it. Okay, cool. So, all right. So request space is colon merged. Okay, so %3 A is
Oh, yeah. Yep.
colon. Okay,
%3A is the colon. That's right.
cool, cool. All right. No, this is cool. All right, so yeah, I guess we can try this. I guess do you want to?
Good.
Okay, I'm trying to think here in terms of test scenario. Maybe I should open up another pull request so that we have two. And
Well,
I,
I think what I would suggest for the or for the test cases, basically, if you can find somebody that doesn't have a Twitter handle on their GitHub to your repo, then that'll be at least the other case, basically to handle it. Hey, this thing didn't catch it.
oh yeah,
It
yeah,
would
yeah.
be neat to actually put a. Oh, this is kind of a neat use case where if it can't find the Twitter handle, that it puts a comment on the pull request that mentions the user and just says like, hey, if
Oh
if
yeah.
you want it tweeted, let us know, and then you can go back and clean that up manually.
Yeah.
Because this
No,
wouldn't
that's a
really
good.
help you with that, but at least it would like engage them and say like, "Hey, we love to celebrate this kind of thing." Like, take it
Yeah.
from there.
Well, I mean, we're
Um,
kind of scope creeping now, but like we
yeah,
could
I know,
do
I know.
where like, oh, there is no Twitter handle. Do that little mention, like you're saying, like if you want us to
Yeah.
tweet it out, let us know. But we could
Mhm.
also put the thank you template as a issue comment by
Mhm.
if we don't find one. But
If
for
you don't
now,
find one,
we won't scope creep for now. We'll get
pretty much, yeah,
the tweet
get
working.
it up
But
and running. Yeah.
these are all we could probably open up a discussion in the repo about that.
Yeah, sounds good. So in
Cool.
terms of what I pasted in, what we're generally doing here is we're first setting the tweet value to nothing. We're handling it
Yeah.
blank because if for whatever reason this validation doesn't work, we want to pass nothing to the next step. And then
Yeah.
what we're looking at next is we're doing just sort of an if then within bash. So the first thing is to check, did the handle come out to null? Because if they
Yeah.
didn't have Twitter handle, then that's what it's going to be set to by the time that it comes out. And
Okay.
then we're also looking to make sure that first that variable came out to true. And if that's the case, then we are going to set the tweet variable equal to the tweet template, but we're also going to run a substitution to replace the handle with a
Okay.
handle, and we're going to replace the URL with a URL. And so I need to make a little update here just to make sure these are right. So URL, handle. And so then I don't remember if you can actually set the output, but we can at least echo the
Wait.
tweet itself,
Yeah.
as well as setting the output and take it from there. And then I'll
Yeah.
just push this and we'll see how we look after that.
Yeah. No, this is shaping up to be pretty cool. All right. So yeah, once that's up, let me know, and then we can rerun it. I'll just open up go back to the actions. Okay.
Should be good.
Okay. I'm gonna rerun the job. All right. Here we go. All right. It's all done. So let's see what it did. So we still got the login. Yeah.
I got like a pipe failure somewhere that was similar to what we saw before.
Do you know what line that was? I don't see the error anywhere.
I see it at the very bottom, but it doesn't really say what line it was.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I
sorry,
don't
yeah,
know.
pipe fail, yeah. Let's see here. Oh, you know what it is? You have on line 14, if you look in the job, the tweet first merged job, the
Mm-hmm.
the tweet variable, it's in double quotes, but then you're using double quotes within for the sed command, and that's probably causing an issue, I think.
Okay, so let me see if I can find what.
Like, if you look at the sed command where it says $tweet template pipe sed, I think if you
Mm-hmm.
use single quotes on the sed maybe, or was
Mm-hmm.
that working before?
Yeah, it worked for me the first time, but it could be
Hmm.
something else.
Let's see. Echo. I'm just trying to.
Yeah,
I
no,
will
it's
admit I'm definitely not a bash expert, but
I'm not either.
it's the kind of thing I Google stuff when I have to. You know, a lot of times I'm pretty comfortable in the command line, but it's
Yeah.
mainly Git most of the day. But when it's
Mm.
and they're not even obscure commands in the command line, but it's just like even grep, I'll look up the syntax sometimes because I just don't remember, and I've rarely used sed. I can't remember what it stands for or anything. So I guess I'm not a
Well,
real developer. Just joking. Just joking.
I think that we all right. So one thing is I never actually set the tweet template equal to anything. So
Okay.
that's definitely one problem. The other thing that it might be, well, that's where I'm going to start. I think
Yeah.
that like when I look at sort of my little cheat sheet here, I had set both the GitHub token, but I also set the tweet template. So
Okay.
what I need to do is actually set that based on, well, let me undo the thing that I just did with that quote thing because I'm
Yeah.
curious to see if this fixes it. So if I set tweet template equal to, and then you do the $ and double braces, and then I think it's GitHub dot. Oh, this is the part that I'm not sure about. It might be the step input or something, or yeah, It might be something with the input message. I need to find that. Of action YAML inputs. That's the part that I just do not remember.
Dropping that
So
hackathon link again.
do what?
Just dropping the hackathon again, just because we're working on GitHub Actions, so might as well just drop it. All right, cool. Let me go back to the action YAML. Okay, cool. So yeah, what'd you change again?
What I realized is that if I look here on line 37, we use an environment variable called tweet template, but I never set it. I never set that equal to anything. Okay. And so I'm trying to add line 30 now here where I set tweet template equal to, and I want to say that it's this inputs.template message. That's what I'm hoping it is.
Yeah, and probably need to put that in quotes, double quotes too, I think. Or is it not necessary when it's...
we didn't on login, so I don't know if we need to.
Oh,
I think the double quotes that on handle and first were because we were running a command.
Oh, okay. Yeah, anyway, right, yeah.
I push this.
Oh yeah, and it's the template language in the GitHub action that will transform it to bash script. So yeah.
Yeah, correct. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, I pushed it.
Cool.
Down to
the Y. Yeah. All right. Let me get back there. Actions. Nope, that's forum. I'll close that. But that's not it. That's not it. Where the heck did my thing go? Oh, here it is. All right. So let's rerun all jobs because we only have one. And all right, let's see what's going on here. I'll do a quick time check. Yeah, I got about 10 minutes and then I got to call it, but that's still plenty of time. I smell success happening right now. Oh,
I see the red.
Send for backup. Okay. Line 2, command not found.
Oh.
Tweet
weird.
template. Oh, but it did put in the template. You know what it is? The tweet template, you're gonna have to put it in quotes because it's got spaces. That's why the login was fine because there was no spaces, but I think that's the problem. It's just a guess because I'm looking at the other stuff here, and that seems to be the only thing that's different. All right, cool. Yeah, the cancel workflow. Sure.
Yeah, before I do it, I am gonna just double check and see if I can find where it actually refers to the inputs portion. Yeah. So, and then here I'll paste where I'm looking at right now.
Cool. I'll bring
it's where I'm reading.
Okay, yeah. All right. So for the folks at home. All right, inputs. Okay. Let's see. Go down a bit further. I'm just trying to look for it.
I think I see what. Echo. So it says if you're under inputs, right after the example that they give, they mention that when you specify an input in a workflow file or use a default input value, GitHub creates an environment variable for the input with the name in all uppercase input underscore and then the variable name. The environment variable created converts input names to uppercase letters and replaces spaces with underscores. But I don't know what it would do with a dash. So we're going to try it with...
I think a dash would probably get converted to underscore too, probably, but...
let's try it. So if we do input in all uppercase and then we're using... Okay, it's listed as template message. So let's change this to message and then we'll see what it says after that.
And just for my own curiosity, because I forget what sed does, is it just pumping in the variables into the template message? Is that what it's doing? Because you're piping them in?
I usually when you see sed in use, the syntax for it is S, then a slash, and then the thing that you're looking for, and then a slash, and then the thing that you want to replace it with. So I think what I ran into with these is that I couldn't use them with a URL because a URL often had slashes in it. So from what I've read, you can use sed with different delimiters. So that I started with a £, which isn't actually ideal, but I could probably change it.
I got you though.
I might change it to some other character. I'm not sure what, but anyway, it's a substitution. And so right now the substitution is trying to find the %handle % and replace it with whatever the handle environment variable is, and then the same thing for the URL. URL though, we did not set. We still need to actually set that. So I need to find that because that is.
I'm just looking the GitHub action. If you look in, I don't know if it's showing up for you, but for me, it's saying property run is not allowed. The command you want to run it. I'm in the action YAML file, and on line 28, like the run,
Oh,
it's
okay. Yeah.
maybe it's
Yeah,
I think
I
it's
think
just
it might
complaining
be.
for.
Yeah, I think it's complaining about something. I just don't know what. What is it complaining about? Property run is not allowed.
Usually, sometimes you'll get like errors like that, or like in JavaScript, or you'll get linting errors, and it's not because of that. It's sometimes it's just like, hey, you didn't close a squiggly bracket or something, and then it just causes all these other errors, like linting errors, or like because it's kind of checking the code in the background. Like here, it's trying to validate the YAML file. Like
Mm-hmm.
for a quick test, if you cut out like lines 30 to the end there for a
Mm-hmm.
second just to see, or just comment them out. Yeah, okay. So there's
It
something
took it.
wrong in the command.
I think it. My guess is that we still left in this like input template message thing that maybe as far as it knows, it doesn't know where that. But then
Okay,
again, like it's now
it's
okay
gone
with
now.
whatever.
Yeah, I don't know what's up.
All right, so I pushed it. Yeah.
Cool. All right,
So if
so
you want
let's
to rerun it,
rerun that on blah blah. The good old blah blah PR. Okay, definitely looking better so far.
thinking is better than nothing. Yeah.
All right, success. Okay, so
So
let's
it
open
didn't.
this up. Yeah,
I
exactly.
still get. I still get this tweet, or not tweet, but I still get this pipe fail thing, which I don't really understand.
Yeah,
What
I
it
see
is.
that too.
Only other thing, I'm gonna try it with just a dash instead of underscore. See if it
Okay.
like
Yeah, no, that's all
dash.
good. So we get the login, curl, we get the repos popped in there. We're searching the issues. We're checking for repo colon $repo because we're injecting the repo variable. And oh, you know what? Do you need to like? Oh no, it's fine. It'll just pick up $repo. We don't need to put it in anything special. So
Hmm.
that's the other thing you could do too is if you want to debug some things is like you could before you do the curl command, you could actually output like the generated URL for the API just to see what it looks like to make sure it's all good.
Yeah,
But I mean,
it
it seems okay because you ran it prior to that, I think so.
yeah. I mean, we're pretty much trying to mess with 33 and down. So now at this point, I'm gonna try and cut it down to template and see if
Okay, yeah,
that
yeah.
likes it better.
I'm just gonna load up go
I'm
again.
usually just kind of lately. I've been just rerunning the
Okay.
just to see if I can get it to do its thing.
Okay, yeah, I see it rerunning now. Okay, so if we look curl should be done. Okay, it looks like it's done.
Still not getting that tweet message, so I'm not sure what that is, and I
Hmm.
might have to do it offline. In any
Yeah, yeah, no
case,
worries.
we're getting a lot closer.
Yeah, no, for
um,
sure. No, this is like, I know it's baby steps, but just even talking through like how we should really be getting the actual, like, did they actually merge their first,
yeah,
is good talking through it, I think, because we also discovered in the docs there that we can actually do
mhm,
that in a more efficient way too, instead of like kind of going through all the merged ones or closed
yeah.
ones, sorry. Yeah,
I totally
that's
have
cool.
not seen that. It's awesome. All
Yeah.
right,
Cool, cool.
cool, man.
Let me do a time check. Yeah, it's 4:55. Might as well call it here now. I'll definitely sync
Okay,
up with you offline there, and we can see like what the little nitty-gritty stuff going on is.
yeah,
And I don't know if we'll wrap it up next week, but we're getting pretty close though, I think. So just gotta stop my
you're not
alarm there.
far. Yeah, you're getting
Yeah,
real close. Okay.
cool, cool. All right. Well, thanks as always, Matt. And for everybody at home, we will see you next week. Later.